Hey, good morning, everybody, and happy Easter weekend. So, this is going to be the watch list for Monday, April 6th. So, let's go ahead and start with the news. The first half of the week, nothing too critical that I think is going to throw the market in one direction or the other. Pretty much everything right now is totally focused in on oil prices and the war in Iran. I mean, that's what's driving the news flow. As far as unemployment numbers or economic data, not so much. I mean, the market is just discounting everything until we have some clarity on what's happening going forward. But at least let's be aware of what's going to drop so that we make sure we're not in a trade. Monday, all we have is ISM services coming out at 10 a.m. Eastern, so obviously don't be in a trade then. We do have before the market opens durable goods, so we'll know what those numbers are. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about, and then nothing the rest of the day. Wednesday, we got a couple FOMC speakers, and then the minutes from the May meeting. Okay, this is going to be interesting. This should say March, not May. We'll want to see what is going to be in these minutes that maybe weren't discussed. Again, I don't think that there's going to be anything too telltailing that's going to push the market one direction or the other. Thursday and Friday, we definitely have some heavy lifting with economic data, being personal income spending, the PCE, okay, core PCE, GDP, jobless claims, wholesale inventories, a huge slew of numbers that's going to be focused in on the consumer. And then we're going to see that followed up with, again, CPI. What's happening with the consumer price index? Is inflation going higher? Now, what we did see on Good Friday was that the unemployment rate ticked down by 0.1%. Now what we need to look at is what's happening on the inflationary front. And we know that the higher oil prices over the last 3 to 4 weeks are going to impact these numbers on a go-forward basis. Now, will we see the pull-through this week? Probably not. Maybe they'll hint to it, but I think until we actually see it in the data, the story is yet to be written. Now, I will tell you this morning, on the way to breakfast, I passed a gas station here in Vegas, not anywhere near the strip. We're clearly in the suburbs, okay? And diesel gas price was $6.75 a gallon. That is crazy. And then think about the fact that the average truck can hold 150 or 200 gallons. I mean, you're talking $2,000 to just fill up the tank, when before it might have been $800. That is going to pass through from the transportation industry to the people that are buying the goods and services that are being delivered. Let's go ahead and take a look at earnings. There's not much on the earnings front to really pay attention to, in all honesty. The only one that might be a little bit intriguing is going to be Delta Airlines, to see what do they have to say around jet fuel cost and consumer. Other than that, maybe Constellation Brands, but I don't see anything on here that I would really pay attention to or anything that's going to push the market in one direction or the other. So I think you're good from that perspective. Let's go ahead and start with SPY. These are going to be my price levels for next week. And for the most part, we're in a pretty decent range. You can see what I'm looking at here is that I want to break this high from the pivot of 658 to go higher. But if we fall below 652.38, we could take puts. If we fall below 645, again, puts down to 637 and so on and so forth. So I'm trading from level to level on a 4-hour and a daily perspective. If you want to get more granular, you can. I don't know that it's necessary, but you can see that if we don't hold these levels, then there is quite a bit room down below. Now, also on my YouTube channel, I did put out a video on Friday of how I chart supply and demand. So how do I use this indicator to make sure that my levels look accurate, to make sure that where I'm guiding is directionally correct with the overall buyers and the sellers. So if you're not using it, I would highly encourage you consider it. Let's take a look at QQQ. Pretty similar story here. You know, we're going to keep hitting our head to the upside, which is fine. But again, lots of room below. That if we start failing, 581, and I'm going to again stay on a 4-hour time frame, we have room down to 571. We fail that, we have room back down to 561. So the question is, did we just hit an interim bottom to push higher to eventually go even lower? Now, my personal perspective is I think oil's going to hit $150 a gallon. And I think if that comes to fruition, this market is going to have a much harder time pushing to the upside. But you'll see the difference of when I'm on a 4-hour, okay, versus a 1 hour, where you can also take the trades, right? I mean, it's really directionally biased. Let the support or the resistance level break on a 5-minute candle to be able to get your move higher to the upside or to the downside. And you can see exactly how that aligns. Let's look at tech stocks, and this is what I would stick with. I've been looking at some of the individual names, and the bid ask is just too wide on some of these with volatility 25 and 30. But here's where we're at with Apple, some really good price levels. I do like calls if we get above 257. If we reject this on the open Monday morning, I think you can take some puts back down to 252, and below 250, we're going back down to 247. Microsoft, this one still a real struggle, right? Really can't get out of its own way. Same thing here. If we get above 373, calls, I really like calls above 377. You're going to be in a much better position there. But if we fail below this 370, let's take it back down to 363, fail below that, and we go even lower. Google had some relative strength, which I thought was interesting. We do have a gap fill below on the daily time frame, and you'll see on a 1 hour time frame, we are really for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours really stuck in this range. So a break below would look good for puts, a break above would look good for calls. I want to talk about Meta. Meta had a really nice, good rally. Again, now what we have on this one is we have a couple gaps that are still below, which is interesting. It pushed all the way down to 520, moved back up to almost 600. So that is a monumental move in a stock this big. Now, the problem we have is we are just kind of oscillating back and forth here between price levels. So the one thing I would also consider looking at is, do you do a fib to say, okay, we're going to push up into this golden zone, and then do we reject and go lower? So we are coming down. We are coming back in here. We're going to want to watch and see what does price do in this area. Can it hold it? It'll go higher. If it doesn't hold it, we are going to go lower, and then I'd want to break below my support level of 659. 569 down to 559. Okay, so just make sure that you spend the time on the charts. Now I'm going to leave this fib because I think this is going to be very relevant potentially for where we are going to open on Monday morning. Let's go ahead and look at Amazon. This one had some strength, gave it up. Again, we are consolidating right back here between 208 and 209. Very, very tight ranges. We could do the exact same thing, okay? Pivot high to a pivot low. Now, this is the other thing you need to note. This green candle is not the pivot high. The top of this candle is lower than where the market opened. So this is technically your candle high. What we're going to want to see is, are they going to hold this area? And again, I'll save this fib. And if they can hold it where they've been holding it for quite a bit of time, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, this would give me pause to say we are most likely going higher. We are not going to reject lower. Unlike Meta was still approaching the level. This is telling you that you are consolidating within the level. Let's look at Nvidia. Same exact thing. They're pushing up. They're trying to break through this 177. This is bullish in nature. I would not even consider puts on this. Again, if you did a pivot high to a pivot low, where you get back to 100% of where the pivot started. So this would be a good one to watch on the open to go long with calls. Now, ideally, I'd like to get a pullback if I could, maybe to 175. I don't think we're going to get down to 174, but if you can get a drawdown on the open to here where it's been holding this level for multiple hours, you can take a call trade and have some confidence that it should, if the market is strong, be pushing to the upside. So right now, definitely like calls on Nvidia. Tesla, severe disappointment on delivery numbers, and we don't have earnings for another couple weeks. So I believe that that's what the issue was here. Analysts cut Tesla targets. Yeah, they just had really poor deliveries. From 405 to 375, Truist down to 400 from 438. This had a rough time on Thursday where it dropped over 5.5%. So don't know that I would want to catch a falling knife here. We're going to want to watch us see 358. Below 358, we go to 352. Below that, I still like this gap fill below. Now, we have what we've created is on a daily basis a gap fill above. Okay. Now, on the daily, this is a decent selling bearish candle. So let's be patient and see, do they pop this thing higher? If they do, what we'll do is we'll look for a drawback here to take our calls to go up to here. We get above this, we could look for the gap fill. We can't hold this, then I would look for us to take puts to actually head lower to the downside. I want to look at AMD, and what we have here is some really good overall relative strength heading for this gap fill up above. Now let me take a look at this one because I did not rechart this one. So I'm just going to fix a couple things here for us to take a look at. And this is what I do. I like to find what is my daily high, what is my daily low, and I want to make sure that my highs and my lows are always going to be in yellow. My lower time frames are going to be in blue. And then what do I want to see? Again, if you were to do a fib from the pivot high to the pivot low, it's chasing now this pivot, which is the bottom of the gap fill, to actually go higher. This one had a real nice move on Thursday. I think it was up almost 6%. Look at how it drew down all the way here on Thursday on the open to 200. We talked about this before, guys. The market does not want this stock to lose 200, okay? Now, I missed it as a good call trade. I should have had it on my radar. I did not, but they literally pulled it right down to $200.62, and then it finished at 217. What a rocket ship move to the upside. And those are the things that we want to be watching and we want to be playing. Let's take a look at Palantir. Again, we are now breaking above where my pivot was to the downside. Okay, so this one, again, I did not rechart, so we do want to go ahead and take a look at this. On a 4-hour basis, we're already there. I'm going to leave this pivot where we're at. I like calls above 149 to go up here and fill this gap fill. Right now, don't see anything with puts. The only put trade might be if they fail 148. But again, what I would look for is a drawdown to at least where they were holding this prior level right here at 144 to go long. Okay. Now, if we get a lot of weakness and we get below this, then you could definitely consider puts. But if I had to guess, we probably have some buyers sitting down here. And that we do, right? We have 2-hour, 1 day, 2-hour, lot of overall demand right here at this level. So we know that it's going to break above this pivot. I will just get rid of this. So a pullback to 146. I'd love a pullback to 144. I think this is going to be way too optimistic. But look at if you get above 149. Calls to the moon, right? Straight up top. What else do I want to look at today with you guys? We could look at oil. So these at some point are going to peter out. Now, I do like Exxon puts below 160. This was my level from last week, but you can kind of see how they are really holding this. So if you get below this pivot low here, okay, this overall demand to the bottom, 159.53, I definitely think you could look at some puts. Now, mind you, this is going to move very quickly based upon news flow. And again, I think that the risk is probably going to be, trying to short this and then something goes dramatically wrong from a news flow perspective. You can see that we have now demand up top. We got a lot of room if oil is going to go higher next week. Again, depending upon what the news flow is. Let's look at Chevron, CVX. It's another good one that you can play. Literally holding my levels. It was holding my level. It finally broke it. We took it down to the next level. Where are we at now? Back up here. So what do I want to do? I want to figure out where my short-term overall supply is now that we're on the other side of the trade. Okay, and then my demand is going to stay the same. So 199.50, we get above this. I like calls. If the market is going to sell oil, this one could also be a push to the downside. Now, I know some of you also follow Gus, and he likes to trade USO. Okay, so this could be another one for you to watch, depending upon your overall risk appetite. Now, this one is consolidating a lot more. So for me, I'm not as much a fan of this one just because it doesn't move exponentially. Now, that does not mean that the contracts aren't going to move. So if we look at this, we got a gap fill below, gap fill below. I can see for the most part why this is so strong. Look at this daily gap here, right? From this candle to this candle all the way across. Now, what I will tell you is when you have a gap fill and a price level in the middle of it, you really need to clear that mid level that was prior resistance, okay, in order for it to fall. So kind of use this as a gauge that if you could get into the 131s, then you could go ahead and take some overall puts. Let's look at this. I'll go out a little bit further. Again, we'll mark the top of the 4-hour zones just so we could see what we're dealing with here. But for the most part, I don't really see too much other than quite a bit of consolidation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, right? It did have a drawdown and then they bought it right back up. So be careful trying to short oil. I think that could really go sideways on you pretty darn quick. So that's all I'm going to cover. I'm going to keep it really simple this week. I hope you all have a phenomenal Easter weekend, and I will see you Monday morning for live trading, as well as those of you that are going to be taking the April Masterclass. Starts Monday night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're not registered, make sure you grab a seat because I'm not going to teach another one until probably September or October. So with that, everybody, I will talk to you soon and have a great day. Take care. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you sign up for the free weekly Watchlist emails to get early access before the video drops here on YouTube. See you next time.